Welcome, everybody. Welcome to the final day of EAMC Virtual. We hope that you've been having a great time, making some good connections, and definitely learning a ton. We have really had a great 3 days, and we are ending on a high note. I'm super thrilled to introduce this next session. We will be speaking about diversifying your venues with actionable change. And before we get started, I just want to remind you all that these sessions are going to be recorded, and we will be posting these recordings after the conference, so you can rewatch it. We today have Nada Taha and Noelle Scaggs, which is phenomenal. I'm going to introduce Nada, and then she's going to take it from there. So welcome, Nada. Nada Taha, she just actually worked at the CMT Awards last night, so she's joining us from Nashville. She is the host of Country Chart Show on Apple Music and a co-founder for Good Cop, Bad Cop. She's the head of creative. We encourage all of you to ask questions, and we will answer those questions at the end of this. So Nada, take it away.
Thank you guys so much for having us and for that wonderful introduction. I didn't fumble the intro, Noelle.
Not supposed to tell people my sidebar.
Hey, if you're gonna like privately message me something, I'm gonna talk about it.
I love it.
Pull a Larsa Pippen on you. I'm gonna intro you. I guess, the best way to say it is obviously you are the co-lead of Fitz and the Tantrums. You've been doing that for many, many years. You're super musically talented. You are also one of my bestest friends. If people don't realize the chemistry here, that's why. She's also a tequila and food connoisseur. But we're here, to talk about your history in music, but also what you started during the pandemic, which is incredible. Diversify the Stage.
Yeah, I've been in Fitz and the Tantrums for now 13 years. I started my music career pretty young, but I didn't attempt to have one until college. So I'd probably say like my early 20s, and my exposure to being on tour and being on the road, fairly early on in that career, in my career, kind of, gave me a view of all of the things that I'm working towards right now. It was always very diverse as it related to, folks being on stage within my community of Los Angeles when I was really kind of, getting my foot in the door, and working with my first band prior to Fitz. But as I grew and, into more, I guess, like more of a popular kind of artist in the commercial space, I started to notice a decline in that diversity. And, I've been singing since I was 10. I've had managers, I've done all kinds of things. But for me, what was a really foreign territory is how productions were put together, like how the staffing works, how they do bookings, like within the, our direct kind of tour personnel, who's actually doing the hiring, who's contracting, the supplier companies and all of that. So as I was kind of, thinking about Diversify the Stage and its conception, you and I had, kind of talked about something that I wanted to do, because I just felt like I needed to put forth action versus everything being about protesting for things. Obviously, last year was a really difficult period for a lot of us. Me creatively, I had been struggling to trying to find my footing if I wanted to continue music, all of these things that were happening in my head. So I had to give myself a purpose. I had to do something purposeful. And I felt like I had an opportunity to use my platform to really create dialogue for the lack of diversity that I was seeing in my touring life and being a performer at a high level. So I just, started having conversations with tour personnel. I reached out to my friend, Mark Oglesby. He told, just kind of picked his brain, like, hey, do you notice this too? Like, how do you actually find people? And he was super open, and he connected me with a lot of different tour managers and production managers and supplier owners. And I just kind of started interviewing people, so to speak, and like writing down all of the obstacles. How do you find new recruits? Like, what's the practice across the industry? And really discovered that it was a lot of word of mouth, because, us on the road, we want to work with folks that we know. or folks that have been recommended by folks that we know, just because we want to know that the people that are on the road are going to do their job, that we don't have to worry, that their safety and concerns and they're a good vibe. You know, it's like 50% knowing what you're doing. The other half of it is your personality. You know, like it's like that's just how our industry functions. So I wanted to kind of, you know, look at areas where we could widen the net of opportunity for folks.
It's interesting
If you're, yeah, go for it.
that you kind of introspectively started to look at touring when you couldn't be on tour. You know, do
Oh
you think
yeah.
that was kind of the catalyst? Like, what was the exact moment for you? Do you remember where you were, what you were doing when you realized that, okay, I don't want to just think about this anymore. I want to actually do something.
Blackout Tuesday. It was the number of black squares that were being posted in my Instagram feed on a regular from companies in the music industry making promises or stating, you know, Black Lives Matter and we're going to do this and blah, blah, blah about the music industry, but not necessarily the concerts. I wasn't seeing a lot of that. And I felt like that discussion, if it was being had, it wasn't being amplified. I was like, we're sitting on a multi-billion-dollar industry that I know has issues of diversity and equity across the board for underrepresented communities, and not just, you know, African Americans. We're talking about women of all identities and backgrounds. And though we're seeing growth, especially in technical, you know, career paths, they're still seeing barriers to entry. And for me, I think it's ridiculous to have a conversation about being supportive of an underrepresented community and not talking about the whole of the industry that contributes to that lack of diversity. So for me, it was like, everybody's going to be facing and looking at their internal teams and their corporations and their executive boards and all this stuff. But let me talk to the boots on the ground. Where are you guys not able to kind of connect the dots with working with minority owned businesses? Where, you know, why are, you know, where is the issues with recruiting, you know, folks getting into your programs? I wanted to have those conversations, and as an artist, really kind of learn what I could contribute, you know, to kind of change the narrative in any way that I could, you know, being as a person that is hiring people, you know, it's how could I engage further?
Toured for so long. Had you always seen some of these issues? And like, what were some of the specific issues that you saw on tour, and why now? And, you know, like,
Yeah.
you know, did you notice it when you were on tour before and just didn't know how to do anything about it? Or was it not as noticeable as it is now for some reason?
I noticed it, but I didn't have any connection outside of like my tour manager. Like, it was like, I noticed it as far as the number of women that we weren't hiring very, very, very early on. And we changed that after the first tour. Because I was like, I can't be the only woman on the road with a bunch of dudes. Like, it's not going down like this anymore. So we started hiring more women, but more on the, you know, like our production coordinator roles, monitor engineers, like things like that. But we didn't have a lot of, you know, racial diversity. And that's really what I started to kind of hone in on. Have I noticed this in my entire career, and not just within my, you know, direct team? Throughout the industry and all of my experiences, all my performances, has this been a regular occurrence? And yeah, it had been. I started kind of needle pointing, you know, like, oh, that meeting that I had with blah, blah, blah. I was literally the only, you know, woman of color in the entire room, and maybe one of two women in the entire room.
Just kind of, as women in the music industry, we kind of get used to that, so much so that we kind of become numb to it, and we don't really realize it until you shine a light on it and you're like, wait a second, I was the only person in that room. I have been the only person in XYZ department or whatever. And
Yeah.
it's an interesting thing to step back and look at, you know, 15 plus years of a career and be like, oh, I've always kind of been the only woman in the room, you know.
Yeah.
And I was a music director for a long time. And I think, like, for me, it was like, I was one of few women programmers in radio, you know. And it's interesting to take a step back and really look at oh, this has always been an issue. And I think, you know, you deserve a lot of credit for taking that step forward in terms of making an actual, like affecting actual change in this.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, it comes down to one, being able to provide resources to people. There's a massive learning curve if we're thinking about, companies that are coming from small towns and their demographics don't necessarily reflect diverse communities. It's how do we kind of provide additional tools to enable them to find diverse recruits or give them a different outlook on how they're marketing their opportunities, their job roles, their marketing materials. What photographs are you using? Are they inclusive to underrepresented groups, or are they only, reflective of one demographic of individuals based upon your local community, right? How are you, finding recruits? Are you only using one, I don't want to like throw things out there, but Full Sail is a very popular, a school to gain recruits from, especially on the technical end. Is that your only resource for your recruits? And if they are sending your recruits, how diverse are they within, looking at your annual picture? So it's just really kind of one, providing resources for people to be able to find diverse communities. We've developed a toolkit that I've really been pushing to touring teams and getting venues eyes on it. I'm on the advisory board for NEVA, really having conversations about how this kind of can translate into venues when we're looking at hiring on a local level, especially those venues that have to rely upon union, and how we really push our unions to engage in developing more diverse workforces and stagehand operations and things like that. And tapping into various resources in order to kind of change the picture a bit. So that's one thing for Diversify the Stage. Is our biggest mission is, one, not only saying let's diversify it, but let's also help you get there. Let's give you some actions that you can take, how you can kind of analyze your businesses, ways to move forward, even with community engagement partners. I just had a really wonderful phone call with a woman named Nancy Tarr, who runs an incredible program called Well Done. And you can really tap into these kind of grassroots community, driven organizations to find new talent. It doesn't have to just lie in collegiate. I dropped out of school. A lot of folks that I know in executive positions dropped out of school and are running major companies. So I don't think that the needle needs to be set as only a college grad can do this work and be successful at it. I think it's really a matter of people taking the time to show folks that these career opportunities exist and mentor them. I'm really excited about a program that is going to be happening called LEAP, which I feel is really important, because EAMC is behind it. And, I think that's going to be a really amazing support tool for people. But mentorship programs are super important. And that's a part of the DTS kind of flow as well, with introducing new talent.
I do want to let everyone know that's watching that you can drop in questions.
Lead.
Yeah. We'll have some Q&A at the end of this. If you want to drop in questions in the chat, you can. But I want to stick on the mentorship program for a second, because the apprenticeship and the mentorship is such a big part of DTS. And honestly, the work starts at that point, at, students, we did you had a whole summer program. And it was 20 cohorts, I think.
25, and it's ongoing. So right now the program is still running. My current cohort is wrapping up their mentorship program next week. So we're hosting a little grads event for them. But yeah, it starts off with an 8-week masterclass course, inviting different leaders from the industry to talk about the work that they do, to a select group of students who have applied to be a part of the program. It goes into a 6-month mentorship placement program that's one-on-one. It's at least once a month, 1-hour meeting with your mentee. And then through that process, after your first meeting, the student is eligible to start getting placements within our DTS network of partners.
But like you said, I mean, starting that early and being able to kind of expand the pool of who has the opportunities, I think that's the biggest thing is a lot of students, women, people of color, all of those things are not aware that they can have these jobs in the music industry. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Any job in the music industry. So I think starting at mentorship, opening the pool and the opportunities for them is one big aspect of it. And then the other aspect of it is the actual touring venues and the people that are already in the industry. And so can you talk a little bit about the importance or how they can be involved on their end for this?
Yeah, I think, for existing folks, there's a few ways. If we're just talking about the college age program with DTS, you can register to be a masterclass speaker, a mentor, or a apprenticeship placement host. That's one thing. For existing and qualified staff, as a recruiter, we have tools. We have an entire toolkit that includes a load of databases to find qualified staff. If you are looking for tour personnel and you want to, approach female identifying or non-binary, we have grassroots partners that have been housing databases for years, and they come with references. They are well qualified to be on the road. So there's, resources and tools that we can give people for that. If we're looking at a venue level, our network of partners, across our grassroots organizations to, collegiate partners, we're able to present these opportunities that are coming through your venues. So one, if you're coming to Diversify the Stage and our network, that you're going to be exposed to a diverse group of candidates across the board, because that's what our focus says. So I think just tap into those resources.
Talk a little bit about what it's like from the viewpoint of an artist going into a venue and some of the struggles or issues or things that you see from that point of view, because I think a lot of times venues or people on the other side of being an artist don't see it from your point of view. So as an artist, as a female,
Yeah.
when you walk into any venue in the United States or, overseas, what are some of the things that you notice that maybe those people don't?
I mean, looking at it now with what I know, we have a long road ahead, to get anywhere close to where we want to be. It's not to say that it's not happening, but to see it, right? To actually have the evidence in front of you that our teams are diversifying and that companies are actually following suit with making that a regular hiring practice. All I can give you is that, on safety, looking at HR, we don't have that in a lot of our spaces. There's nowhere to report, incidents really, unless the venue has already established that. So there's no real standard practice across the board when it comes to like safety and inclusion of folks, and just recognizing that taking a look at that and presenting, safe spaces for people as a start can come down to, dressing rooms. If we're working with smaller venues and you're a baby band, you don't really have any control over the facilities that are offered to you. And in some cases, you don't even have money to get a day room. You're tracking the bus that you're following. And a lot of baby bands have that. So it's even creating safe spaces for those bands that are on the come up. So if you are able to, spend X, Y, and Z amount of money on a merch seller for the day, or whatever, you should be able to hopefully come up with just like a stipend for one day room. If you're not able to facilitate a woman that's on the road, that's in a band that is full of men.
The baseline,
you know what I mean? Like, it's kind of the thing, but I understand a lot of it comes down to finances for people. It's like, where do we come up with the money? Especially, we're coming out of a pandemic now. We've lost half of our independent, not half, but a good chunk of our independent venues are not opening up again, and, I think just really having that dialogue, coming together more often. What I love about what's been happening with NEVA is that there has been a collective force that has been pushing and the protection of these kinds of venues, but also I think they have also given people the time to think about how they want to come back. You know, how diverse do they want their workforces to look? You know, what safety measures, mental health, how are they taking care of their staff? You know, it's given people the opportunity to really build towards the future.
Like the pandemic definitely spotlighted a lot of those issues. You know, it kind of showed, all right, in the music industry, we don't have a status quo for like HR, like a normal company,
No.
or we don't have, you know, a baseline for mental health. And that's a big, you know, issue that we all run into in the music industry, whether you're an artist or, you know, on any side of it. I do wonder though, if you've had any pushback and, or, you know, considering there has been a lot of money lost in 2020, do you feel like people are going to feel like this is more an extra burden, an extra step that they have to take, you know, when they're already trying to fulfill certain things to make money again, coming out of the pandemic? I mean, that's a really negative output, you know, outlook, but I do think that that could be something that's a hurdle for you to jump.
Yeah, I think as far as, you know, people considering their furloughed staff and getting them back to work, getting folks in that they know are qualified for the job is the first priority for many companies and productions that are starting again. But looking at the number of vacancies and the amount of previous staff that is lost, the shortage of resources, people need to come together now more so than ever, because we're going to have to kind of even navigate how we're going back into productions. Who's able to tour, the steady flow of that. Like, this is the picture that I'm getting from folks that are general managers of venues, looking at, you know, touring personnel and our production suppliers. I'm talking to all of them to kind of really get an understanding of how we move in 2021 as you know, productions are coming into play. Where I'm not getting pushback is people saying that we can't hire diversely, or we can't look at this right now because we're looking at sustainability instead. That's not happening. There's an understanding across the board that there's a lot of work to be done. And I think people are now recognizing that the collective actions and the building of associations making this progress a little bit more feasible for a lot of people.
What did the live music ecosystem look like before DTS? And what do you think it can look like when you're done with it?
I don't know how to answer that question, because, you know, as I started this work, I was introduced to so many organizations and people that have been working for this for a long time, and they just weren't getting as amplified until now. You know, it's been more so, if you're in the know, you know, and if you don't, then, you know, it's on you. You know, now it's becoming, people are way more open to talking about diversity, giving a spotlight to, you know, organizations like Roadies of Color United that started a long time ago, you know, in order to create safe spaces for touring personnel that identified as BIPOC. You know, looking at Girls Behind the Rock show that has been doing stuff for a really long time and supporting young women, Sound Girls, you know, as well. Looking at all of these different organizations that have been doing this for a while, I think now is just the spotlight is on them, and they have the floor, and people are willing to support them in all of their efforts now. Whereas before, I think it was just, like I said, if you knew, you knew.
Do you think that's because you're an artist that it was amplified more?
Probably.
I mean, do you think that the
timing too? I can't say I'm not like Beyonce or anything. It's like my band is you know, it's fairly popular within the circuit of folks that I've been talking to. And I think maybe the charm, you know, for people and the need for people has been more artists talking about these issues, because we're the ones that are going to push, you know, our agents to act.
You've talked a lot about the responsibility of the artist, or that the responsibility falls on the artist to hire who they want to hire or speak up about that. Do you think that artists are at the top of this food chain in terms of responsibility, or is there someone else? Like, does it fall on management or label, or where does it, venues, like where do you think the top line responsibility comes to?
I think for the artists to vocalize exactly what they want to see in their productions, for it to be contractually put in writing, given to agents, given to the promoters, the suppliers, the folks that are actually activating the staffing. I think it really does come up. It's on us to make sure that this is pushed through, because otherwise people are not going to take it as seriously.
And that's like your idea writer, correct? Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, I mean, the idea writer is really, it's a tool for artists to be able to hand off to their teams, their agents, their management, tour management, production management, to state how they want things, like it's basically their writer. So it can be implemented into their existing writer. It really covers all of these areas of inclusion, diversity, equity, and accessibility. Creating safe spaces, being very clear about their considerations around intolerant messaging. If we're looking at, racist memorabilia, things like that. Just, all of the things that you need to think about when you're being inclusive of parties that are often left out of the conversation. We've given a tool for artists to be able to use.
What's the most important thing you've taken away from this last year of you working on this?
To be more engaged, I think, as an artist. I think it's really easy to miss all of the folks that make these productions happen because we show up after it's done. So I think me as an artist, I have way more respect for the craft and for the number of people that put these things together, that work day in and day out to make sure that my job is easier.
And it happens not just in touring, it also happens, like for me, at least on the creative direction side, our productions for music videos or any of that content. I mean, that's a lot of work that goes into it. That's a large team, and creating a positive experience for those creators is really something that I pride myself on, and I work really hard. That's one of the top line things that I want to be, make sure that we're getting them paid on time and they feel, like you said, on a set, or it's a diverse group of directors and DPs and, gaffers and all of that. And it's like, you want to make sure the artist feels comfortable, but it's also important to make sure the team feels comfortable as well.
Yeah, I mean, we got to take care of our staff. A lot of our folks, boots on the ground, went through a lot last year. I can't even imagine what half of them went through. And it brings me to tears, because me looking at that and learning about the people that I know, I don't ever want them to have to deal with that again. We have to really take care of each other, and from recovery down to our mental health and checking in, just checking in. It can be the biggest thing of all, and supporting each other, because we're out, just thinking of touring, we're out there on the road together for months at a time. We don't get to see family, so we are our family. So
I just feel like
that.
Maybe we've learned a little bit more this past year, but I do, you and I talk about this all the time, and we're always like checking on each other or our friends, but it's like, we need to check in on the people that we have worked with or want to work with, whatever, in whatever capacity. But it's like, I hope that 2020 kind of, opened our eyes to that. But I do think that, not to pivot from obviously the diversity, but I do think that the mental health conversation is important as well. And you're right, we should be checking in. We should be checking in on the people we worked with in the past, or, continue to work with, or whatever, because it is a difficult industry, and there's a lot, especially for that diverse group, because I think about that a lot, and in terms of artists that, for example, like in country music, there's not a lot of Black artists in country music. And I work with one right now who's incredible, but he's having this dialogue that is necessary in country, because you walk into a room and there's not a lot
You're the only one.
Not a lot of melanin in the room, and it's like, really see it. And I think, I think about what a Black artist in country music walking out into a stage or a room filled with people who do not understand what they're going through. Like, what does that artist feel like? And that's the same for you, it's like, how do you especially in an alt pop world, same thing. There's not a lot of Black artists in that world. So it's like, how do you feel walking into a room that doesn't look like you, you know? And I think
Yeah.
to take a step back and really consider those feelings, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, even just, when we're thinking about services that we're offering for mental health services, having, counsel that can actually, reflect the folks that they're talking to is super important as well, because we all have different, struggles in life and how we walk. So just throwing that out there. I'm not sure how much time we have. We could talk for like another
I know
hour.
we could talk for hours.
I'm gonna jump in here. This is just so wonderful and such a great open conversation. A lot of the comments are coming through, and I just personally want to say, like, obviously it was such a dark time for our industry last year. This is a lifestyle for many of us. It is our whole life. And when music stopped, we were all so affected. And I was grateful because Fitz and the Tantrums played 2 drive-in shows in Anaheim for us. And at that moment, you forgot about all of the crap we had been dealing with, all that anxiousness, anxiety. And I remember Fitzgerald from the stage had everybody scream collectively.
Yeah.
And it was just so moving. And then I've been lucky enough to be involved with Diversify the Stage. And you're a true inspiration, Noelle. Like how you, as busy as you are, you're speaking at all these amazing things, you're giving us time, and you're a touring artist, and you're leading this group of people. I mean, how do you find the time?
I mean, I feel like we're just going to start getting back on the road. I've had nothing but time. I spent the majority of last year into now really building this to get it to be a functioning machine, even after I can no longer run it. Like I have to have people do it. And I've had amazing volunteers that are stepped through and have been, really supportive. I mean, there's been, all of these varying conversations. We finally decided to put them in one place. You've been a lot of the conversations with the U.S. Concerts Alliance. And, that's something that I want to continue, letting people do that. It's like, you guys need to come together and start talking about the issues in our industry and how we can start moving towards them, getting rid of a lot of these obstacles that we have and supporting one another. I'm honestly just the Kickstarter. It's got to keep going. Even, for me, I can do what I can within my team, and then making sure that this youth program keeps running, and bringing in more folks into the network and saying, yes, you have a place here. We can pool our resources, like just creating that massive family pipeline, as best as we can. They're already starting to do it overseas. They're doing it with Live UK, with all of the associations that are functioning in the UK to have this same dialogue. So we want to continue that process. And obviously anybody can go visit, the website at diversifythestage.org, put in an inquiry. If you want to join any of the U.S. Concerts Alliance calls, we're looking at hosting them now monthly, but there's opportunities for folks to just work together, period.
I think that's such a big part of it. And Nada, you probably can agree, it's just being the conversation starter. I think a lot of us know there has to be a change. We want there to be change. We don't know what to do.
Well,
we don't know how to start it.
We talk about it a lot amongst ourselves, I think, in the music industry, whether it's with artists or, people at labels, management, whatever capacity you are in the music industry. I feel like we talk about it. We just don't do what Noelle did and actually.
Yeah, you start it.
Yeah, exactly. And that's why I think also your passionate energy is what kind of fuels everyone else to follow in your, follow your lead with this, Noelle.
Thanks. I mean, yeah, I mean, I'm just like that. You know me. I'm very much an activator. Like, I don't love waiting for people to get things going. I'll start it. And, I don't know. I think I just I live by that thing. If you jump in, one person jumps in, other people get the courage to do so as well.
Yeah. And I think I just want to reiterate, I put it in the chat, but, and we will talk about it a little bit more in the coming months, but the Event and Arena Marketing Conference is launching LEAD. It's been spearheaded by our DEI committee that was formed this year. And we're really excited. We're going to have more information coming, but it's a mentorship program that we can mentor the next generation of the live entertainment business. And we encourage all of you to check it out, stay tuned, and sign up, because this is going to be a step how we change things.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And I'm, obviously with Diversify the Stage, your mentorship program will be a resource for us, may not, how we've been really doing it with even with Well Done and all of the organizations is just pooling those resources. If I don't have enough LDs, and I know, you guys do, I'm going to call you and say, hey, I need 2 placements for somebody. Who do you have in your network? That's really how we're working together on ours. I just want to see,
I know, is there any questions? Does anybody have any questions for Noelle or Nada, or, since a lot of you are in venues? I also want to bring up, Noelle, that the Event and Arena Marketing Conference is making a donation to Diversify the Stage. So
amazing. Thank you. Yeah, yes. I mean, send those donation dollars. A girl's gotta support the work here. Yeah, I mean, any dollar amount increment at this point would be super helpful. I gotta hire staff for the operations side. So there's actually a DTS to talk about come 2022. So I really thank you so much for that. I really appreciate it. We're just, we're the little engine that could, and we've placed about 40% of our cohort so far in paid opportunities over this period of COVID with things not really being back in place. So I'm super proud of that. And we have a lot of young women who really, really want to do like on-site experience stuff. So if you have opportunities to like host anybody, if you're touring personnel that wants to bring, out folks and sponsor them, for like a run, you can definitely do that. We've done that. We just found our new production coordinator because of our shadowing program. I know a lot of bands that are looking to do that come 2022, and there's massive opportunities to support there.
I do have a question. We're approaching Juneteen next week.
Yeah.
And it's a topic that a lot of venues will post about or do. Like, do you have any advice for venue marketers or representatives on how or what we should maybe be saying or doing during Juneteen?
I mean, don't make it performative. There's I think if you're going to do anything, make sure that it is from the mind and the hearts of the folks that are being affected. I would really, encourage actually connecting with African Americans to talk about things that we want to share. With ours, what we're trying to do is amplify more organizations that are supporting, African American communities. We're highlighting music, folks that have made an impact across the board. Even looking at our production, spaces, highlighting those, those boots on the ground folks, those BIPOC owned venues, the suppliers, like all of these things, like really tapping into amplifying the work and the communities that are engaged in our business is really the best way to go around,
I mean, I feel be an amazing opportunity for venues to use their platforms and hand them off to someone who is a person of color that can actually speak on those things, like Noelle said, like people who are actually experiencing those feelings, instead of trying to say it for them, allowing them to say it themselves.
And doing it in a way also where we're not feeling as though we're needing to educate people. It's actually being just invited to, share our story, share our business. Like that's literally it. We want to look at equity. We want to look at opportunities of making people feel included in the ecosystem. I'd start there. I don't see a lot of that when I'm kind of, I'm very rarely in the feed anymore, but when I am, I don't see a lot of that. It seems like the same kind of sharing. Let's throw the pride flag up and show our, whatever, but we're not engaging with any organizations or, folks that are also a part of that community. And I think that that's really important to do that. If we're going to have that real dialogue in how we approach inclusive marketing behaviors, from social media content down to panel discussions, is really engaging with those communities. And if you need help, tap on those profit organizations to say, hey, we really want to do something special for Juneteenth, but we want it to come from the minds and hearts of the folks that are part of the community. How can we work together?
Yes, that is so important. You're right. It's not just, yeah, exactly. It's not just making a statement. It's having some action behind that and following through. Like you said, it's not just this one time. It's how do, moving forward. It's how the life should be.
Yeah,
how we
absolutely.
should be doing business.
Yeah, I think so. And I mean, there's a real opportunity when we're talking about marketing and PR to really do that, to showcase that, Create and Cultivate is one of my favorite platforms. Is Samantha Oilette is one of my really, really good friends. And I've just watched that company grow, but they've always put, a focus on making sure that the folks that they were bringing in for conversations and dialogue reflected the rainbow of individuals in those professions. So they've always really done a good job of how they approach their curation and how they approach their execution, their marketing, all this stuff, to be very, very inclusive. And obviously they're a massive supporter of women and uplifting women throughout every, part of our industry. So I really love them and how they move. And, so I think it's just that. It's just be like, hey, you know what? We're not going to know what to say in this situation. We need to bring in some, community engagement organizations that know how to do this and support them and market what they're doing, within our platforms. Like, I think it's now way beyond just like what we can do as a company to feel good about what we're doing.
Yeah.
It's like, let's really start, kind of expanding in how we're operating, because clearly it has a better effect if you do it in that way. And it is way more authentic and way more appreciated by folks like me that are reading the content that you're posting.
Yes, no, that is those are such brilliant points. And I want to go and dive into Create and Cultivate, because
I love it.
I love any resource that you can help. Like, we love a resource.
Yeah, absolutely.
They're great.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm happy to make that intro.
All right, we have a few more minutes left. I don't know if you have any final words of advice. I find you so inspiring, and we're just so thrilled that you took the time to do this for us today. And I can't wait to see the things that Diversify the Stage is going to do for our industry. I have a lot of faith that we are moving in the right direction, especially when I see the people involved. I mean, it's an incredible group of people. Thank you. Yeah, I think, let's just keep it going. As we get busier, sometimes things get thrown to the back of the to-do list. We're all trying to get back to work. We're all trying to get our sea legs back, trying to navigate the territory still between virtual and reality, and how we engage with people. But I think just making sure that this is something that is in the forefront of your mind and your activities, even on a small scale, every single day, to build up to the longevity. Because in 5 years from now, we can see some real effects of the actions that we're taking towards this. I think just knowing that you have to be in the trenches as much as you are in your day-to-day on these small actions is as important as the big moment that you can showcase.
It should almost just be,
a no-brainer.
Just part of the day-to-day instead of something you add to your to-do list,
Yeah. But it's that practice, a lot of people need the practice. They need the education, You're right. We do. It has been a big education year, and we're still all learning, and we have a lot more to learn. And I think it's so great just to be like, it's okay to ask questions. It's okay to have a conversation. Yeah, absolutely. And if you don't know, don't speak on it.
Yeah, it's okay to not know what, to know that you don't know something and to seek that from someone else that does. And I think what Noelle is doing is really exciting because it's basically handing, you know, like a toolkit, like she said, to these artists and to these venues and to everyone involved to say, hey, you don't have to do the work. I've done it for you. Just execute it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I got to give my flowers to Nada too, because just watching her work over the years and, you know, knowing her background, where she came from, and, you know, her passion for just supporting artists and allowing us to have our own voices and helping us navigate the territory of our businesses and how we present ourselves, you know, as a brand, or as, you know, human beings that are becoming a brand, you know, becoming a recognized name. And, you know, she's always been about having diverse artists, you know, lifting up people, being a part of really hard discussions and stuff. And that's what, me personally, that's what I want out of a creative director, period. You know, I don't want to be tried, you know, shaped and molded into somebody else's idea of me. So, you know, when you find people like her to like work with on your brand consulting or whatever it is, that those are the kind of people that you're looking for, the ones that really want to allow you to grow, but help give you some guidance on how to move with it.
I'm gonna save that video and just play it
I mean, my goodness, that was, oh my gosh.
every single day when I wake up in the morning. Play.
Truly, I feel like I could just like, you guys, you two are amazing together. Thank you. This has been great.
Together for a long time.
I appreciate it. And Vanessa, thank you, man. Thank you for being engaged since we had the first conversation, you know, about DTS and this opportunity, obviously being able to talk to so many amazing people that are in this industry that really want to move, you know, move some change, you know, from across the board, everything that we need to have happen and collectively work towards it. I appreciate the time and the opportunity for that, and your engagement, because it's a big part of, you know, what I've been hoping to achieve.
Absolutely. It's my pleasure. I do want to tell all of you that the next session that kind of leads it from this session to the next is our inaugural Impact Awards. This year, the DEI committee launched the Impact Award, and we're going to be awarding there's 3 finalists. We're going to be awarding the winner in the next session. So please join us at 1:20 Pacific time. I'm on the West Coast, so you guys figure it out the East Coast.
You're like looking it up, yeah.
I know, right? Well, whatever it is.
I'm the same.
But I think unless anybody has anything else, I think we're good. And thank you all for joining us. And we'll see you at the Impact Awards.
Thank you. Thanks so
Thank
much.
you, guys.
Bye, Nada. Bye, V. Bye, everybody.
Thank you.